Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's Steve here, and we're going to do a brief presentation about producing powerful presentations. And I just want to make sure before we dive in that you've downloaded the handout that you can find right above this video link. So please take a minute and download that handout. I always like to give handouts prior to a presentation because that way it allows people to doodle or take notes on the handout and they can interact more with the content, whereas if we say presentations for afterwards. So please pause the video and grab the handout before we start. All right, well, I'm assuming you have downloaded the handout and you're ready to go, so let's dive in. I have a mystery for you here, and the mystery is who has the bigger attention span? And our contestants are, boom, drum roll please, is it the goldfish on the left, or is it human beings, i.e. you and me here on the right? Who has the bigger, or I guess we should say the longer, attention span? So lock in your answers. Okay, well, the answers is this. Goldfish have a 9-second attention span, and humans have an 8-second attention span. Surprised? Well, I'm surprised. First of all, Microsoft, the computer giant, did this research back a few years ago to figure out attention spans. And one thing that in the classroom that we see all the time is we're fighting our students' small attention spans. So we need to do everything that we can to help secure students' attention as we go through. One thing I learned very early as a high school social studies teacher was that we had to do a number of different things over the course of a 50-minute class period, or I was going to lose my students. If I expected them to behave like we saw in college with a long lecture, they weren't going to have that, and it wasn't going to work. So learned that very, very early on in my teaching career some years ago. So one thing that we need to do carefully is to manage our time. And time is precious. There's research out there that shows that the average student attends somewhere 70 to 90 hours per year in the program. So we've got to make every minute count. So let's work on some things and learn some things about how to manage our time as we work with our students. So the first thing we want to do in any given class period is engage our students. And we can do that in a couple different ways. We may want to start with a mystery, like I did earlier with the goldfish. There's the goldfish up there. We might ask a good question. That's not an open-ended yes or no question, but a question that really gets discussion going. Or we might take a poll. It doesn't have to be a fancy electronic poll. We could ask students to raise their hands about various things. So we want to engage from the get-go. You know, we're competing with students in the digital generation, and they're used to being constantly stimulated by their phones. So we have to compete with that and realize that. So engagement from the get-go is important, and I hope that you are engaged up front immediately with the goldfish versus humans attention span. One other thing is we want to have 3 main points, and there's my friend Muhammad Ali. I never knew that he looks a whole lot like Cassius Clay. Just a little old historical boxing humor. But we want to make sure that we have 3 main points. Our brains are only capable of remembering 3 or 4 main chunks from any presentation. So if we've got 47 bullet points, there is no way in the world our brains are going to be able to remember all of that. So try to keep up with only 3 main points. So that's critical. And there's that old expression, less is more, and that's really true as we're giving presentations. Less is definitely more. And so we want to try to focus on 3 main points. What we see happen in the classroom, and I know I'm preaching to the choir on this because I know you've seen this. We've all seen this. Anybody who stepped in front of the classroom has seen this, that student attention is like getting on a roller coaster. And we're going up the hill here, and got that feeling of anticipation. But we see here at about the 10-minute mark that roller coaster is going to take a steep ride down. Wow, we've got the wind in our hair, and we're terrified going down the hill. But that's what happens to student attention. We have a initial period where folks are getting engaged, and then after that 10-minute mark, that's about the crucial, we're really seeing a quick downhill on the attention span. So we really need to do something about that. And I mentioned my earlier teaching career, I learned early on to do the ADCs. Steve, what are you talking about? Shouldn't it be the ABCs? No, it's the ADCs. And the ADCs are absorb, do, and connect. And these are things that we should be doing inside these 10-minute time blocks while we still have students' attention. Absorb, do, and connect. So what we want to do with these situations here is do something every 10 minutes or so. So absorb, that first 10 minutes, we're giving our students information. We might be lecturing or having a class discussion or showing a video or whatever, but then we see the information, the attention is dying, so we need to do something else. And that's where these do and connect activities come in. If you look at your handout about halfway down there on page 1, have students do something after we've given them some content. They could do something active, like you see on the handout, write a 1-minute paper, draw a picture, anything we can do to get multiple parts of the brain going. I love an activity called Take a Stand, where we just write on a whiteboard or put up 2 pieces of paper. One says agree, one says disagree. Ask a question about the content you've given. Have students go stand by one of the signs, and then they need to defend their answer. They agree with this because, and give some evidence. They can do this with partners. They can do this with a whole group. Both of these things work well. The summary I've got listed there, a bumper sticker summary. We know bumper stickers don't have a whole lot of words on them. So creating a bumper sticker summary, 7 words or less, that could be due. One thing that we've learned over the years also is that learning is social. When I first started out in adult ed, we didn't get this, and we had students working individually and don't talk to each other and all this stuff. But we know now that learning is social. And so as much as possible, we need to have students make connections with each other. So what we can also do to do these resets is have students connect with each other. Maybe they could do the old think, pair, share, where you give students a question, they think for a minute, turn to a partner, and they share about what they're thinking. They could talk in a small group. You could have a large group discussion, certainly as well, or perhaps play some kind of a game. I've listed Kahoot and Jeopardy, which are long-standing favorites there. But the beauty of doing these do and connect activities is we get a reset. So we're right back at the beginning at that level of high attention. After we do a do and connect activity, or do or connect activity, we don't necessarily have to do both of those. We're right back up there. So I would really encourage you to, anytime, anything that you're presenting, whether this is social studies or whatever you're doing, build in those resets to grab attention, or you're going to lose your audience. So remember, the ADCs, they've got the ABCs beat: absorb, do, and connect. And that will keep your learners engaged, and they'll remember so much more from any teaching situation that you do. It's also important, I think, to begin class on time. One of those reasons is we're really trying to help our students get prepared for the world of work. And we certainly know that if we came in for work late every day, our opportunity to stay on that job is not going to be very long. So make sure you start your class on time. Don't wait, or don't stop the class and restart everything for those last minute arrivals. Have someone to come in that can kind of help them and get them up to speed when they come in. And that's important. Respect the folks who are there. Don't wait 10, 15 minutes for the folks that aren't there. And once students know this, they'll be there on time. And especially if you do some kind of a fun activity up front that gets folks up and moving and doing something fun, they'll definitely be there on time. And one last thing is definitely leave some time at the end. This, again, is that more is not necessarily better. Leave some time at the end for questions, for discussion, for processing time. Maybe students could do an exit ticket where they write out the main point where they've learned. But leave some time at the end for processing. That's really, really important. And don't just take 2 seconds. Any questions? Oh, okay, great. we got to give students time to think. Any questions, and wait, or ask a couple of questions to students, or have them in groups to talk about the main things that they've learned. Give them some time to process at the end. That's extremely important. So these are some great time management tips that will help. Also want to talk about PowerPoint. We're using PowerPoint more and more, or the Google Slides, depending upon what you're working with. One thing that you'll notice anytime that you go to, say, a sporting event or a concert in this case, or a meeting room in a hotel ballroom, they've got this huge Mondo screen up there. And they have it there because visuals are important. So we want to make use of that anytime that we're presenting. You've been to this presentation, I know I've been to these presentations. I like to call these the triple play. And the triple play is where you have a slideshow with bullet points out the wazoo, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. You have a handout with the same thing with all the bullet points. And then you also have the presenter that's reading to you off the bullet points. Well, I don't know about you, but when I go to one of those presentations, my dominant thought is, kill me now. I wish I were dead. And really all these bullet points really serve to help the presenter, not the learner. And I'll say that again. All these bullet points are really there to help the presenter and not the learner. Now, you'll notice on the handout, I've put the bullet points there, and that's where bullet points should live. Create a short handout and put the bullet points there. We're not going to be able to absorb all the bullet points that you see on the screen. Remember that those couple main things, it's just not going to work. We can't put down everything we need to know about a particular period in history or economics or whatever and expect students are going to remember that. They just will not. That will not happen. Now, PowerPoint tries to get you to do bullet points. Here we are in the default slide, and we can see it asks us to add the title and asks us to add text. Well, we're not going to fall for PowerPoint's little games here. You'll notice on the slides that I've had that you didn't see any bullet points whatsoever, except the last slide where I was demonstrating don't have all those bullet points. You don't have to start there. What you can do is start with a blank slate. You can go and you can choose in the PowerPoint template something that just has a background that doesn't ask for bullet points to be put in. Start here, create a text box, and you can put inside what you want. You don't have to fall for PowerPoint's games and say, I'm going to create 47 bullet points. You don't have to do it. Start with the blank slide. So less really is more as we create a PowerPoint slide. So I'm going to give you a second to think. What have you noticed about the slides you've seen me do inside this presentation? What have you noticed? Take a second and think, or if you've got paper and pencil around, maybe jot down a few things you've noticed. Pause the video and do this. Okay, well, I'm assuming that you've taken a few minutes and that you've jotted down some thoughts about what you saw in the slides that I've created in this presentation. So a couple things that that I hope you've noticed are, one, that I've used very large text in this, and I try to use 54-point font with this. We've been to presentations where the presenter used very small font. It's hard to read, and now that I'm a certain age of maturity, I don't see as well as I've used to, and you've got students in there as well in that same boat. So large text, 54-point font, that's hard to say, point font, is a good way to go when you're creating slideshow presentations. Also notice that when I did a text box, I used a dark background, used a dark blue background, another hard thing to say, and put light text. So notice that as well. That's a good contrast. That helps the eyes see better, especially mature eyes. Notice that I put images here. Pictures speak loudly, and so having images, having visuals are hugely, hugely powerful. So I've covered basically most every screen with an image. And the image doesn't necessarily have to relate to what you're talking about, but you put enough words in there to serve as a word cue, but again, your bullet points are living on your handout. So notice those images. Also notice that less is more. That's a cool visual. I love that. Less is more. We always put pressure on ourselves and think we've got to cover every single thing, but again, students aren't going to remember every single thing. If we can get a couple of main points, that's really what students are going to remember. So just put down a couple of words to use as a word cue will help you instead of those bullet points. That would be a great thing to do, which I hope you noticed as well. I love that slide. It looks like a group of flamingos, or maybe we could say a flock of flamingos, are creating one giant flamingo. Pretty cool. So easy to read font is another important thing. Notice the font here is Arial, up here, Arial 54 point. And Times New Roman, or what we call the serif fonts, are harder when they've got these little dingle-doos. These are harder to read. Arial is much easier, so that's one that I would recommend that we use there. Handouts we've talked about. You can certainly put bullet points there if you're a bullet point fanatic. I use them again on that handout. One thing that we've seen, if you like old movies, they kept images up on the screen a lot longer than in new movies, and actually the cuts in new movies, from the frame to frame cuts, are just a few seconds now, where if you watch an old classic here like Gone with the Wind, they're taking a lot longer on this. So we watched an old movie the other night and the kids were mentioning the same thing. So this goes to habituation, where our mind gets quickly set on one thing and it gets used to it, and so it's always looking for some new stimulus, new stimuli. So it's important to keep your slides moving as you go through. And use the unexpected is a good thing to do as well. I love this particular slide. It looks like the Eiffel Tower is being lifted by this tower crane over here, which of course isn't happening, but it's unexpected. Makes you look at it and think. So hope this helped as you're thinking about designing lessons, the ADCs, and also if you're using PowerPoint or Google Slides in your presentation. I hope this has given you some food for thought. So take a few minutes and kind of think about, how am I doing with this information that Steve's giving me here? And again, this is all based on research. I'm not making any of this up. This is all based on research and what works and what's effective inside presentations. Well, thanks so much for your attention here in this video, and look forward to continuing to work with you as we go on through.